At this time, I would like to call to order this City Commission meeting Tuesday, May 28, 2019. And Commissioner Aldridge is going to lead us in our invocation. If you would please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening, Lord God. We thank you for this city of Lynn Haven in which we all call home, Father. We thank you that your hand of protection is around each and every one of us in this city, Father, as we rebuild, Lord God. And I pray, Father, you help us to see through the eyes of love, Father. I know that things get tense in the midst of all of the work and all of the money being spent and all of the hard times, but help us to see through the eyes of love, Father God, for each other, for each neighbor and each family member, Lord. I pray, Father, your hand will be upon this meeting, Lord, and that your wisdom will be available to each and every one of us. We love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Item number 3 is the mayor's report. Several things going on since the last commission meeting. I attended the pinning ceremony and luncheon to honor our new police chief, Ricky Ramey, and we're so happy to have him as the police chief of Lynn Haven. That was on May the 10th. I took part in the News Herald's fundraising storytelling event at Roberts Hall on the evening of May 10th, where many people came together and told their stories of Hurricane Michael, and this was Facebook Live, and newspapers all over the United States were listening to the stories. They were trying to help get more coverage to our area, and I thought it was a very successful event. I did enjoy a few days off since the last meeting. I went to Louisiana on a camping trip to relax and then combined that a little bit with some music performance. And to add to our relaxation, we got sideswiped on the interstate coming home. But everybody was safe, so that's what counts. Another item that I just wanted to touch on and then maybe ask Chief Ramey if he would be interested in bringing a report to the commission. Maybe next time I could add this to the agenda or request that it be on the agenda. I met with the police chief and asked him if he would consider exploring the possibility of establishing a domestic violence unit within our police department, what the cost would be, what the staff would look like. We've been very successful in having a separate unit with traffic. We've had a lot of issues that have been resolved. And not to dwell on anything gloomy, but in Bay County, we have had many incidents of beautiful, young, educated women who were afraid to speak up, who were savagely murdered in this county. One right here in Lynn Haven in the past few months was murdered brutally. She was a classmate of my daughter. And having been a high school teacher, I cannot tell you how many times that I have witnessed high school boys yelling at their girlfriends in the halls and threatening them. And I would just like to see our police department take a proactive approach here in Lynn Haven, maybe with some education programs. And the chief was very receptive and told me about a program that they'd had at the sheriff's department. And so he was willing to look into that. So I was very encouraged by that. And not to say that the only abuse is from men to women and children, because there's certainly some reversal of that. I didn't mean that to sound sexist in any way. But as we all know, for the majority of people, most women are smaller, they're weaker, and sometimes tend to be more intimidated by physical violence than men. So moving on to the next item. I spent most of Memorial Day weekend really riding around Lynn Haven and just looking and talking with people and seeing how people were doing. And I will tell you that we still have so many families in Lynn Haven who are hurting, so many who are displaced, so many who are in financial distress, they're depressed. And I was even more distressed this afternoon to hear that, once again, that the disaster bill was blocked. And I was very vocal about that on social media and did not use the best of mayoral terms, but I think I expressed myself well about it. And I am just really distressed about this. I do want to compliment our Congressman Neil Dunn. He's been a very vocal voice for us, and I think he continues to do that. So I was very happy about that. The next thing that I wanted to bring up, and I will, this is not on the agenda because it's something that came up today, and as far as the procedures of it. We were talking earlier, and I'll need a motion. Hopefully, we'll get a motion. We were talking earlier about that we had made our first draw on the $5 million line of credit that the city took out. And we have 4 entities that have been working for us since the storm who have not been paid. And without backtracking into why they weren't paid, there was one entity that was, and there's several entities that were not. And so these entities are Marshall Brothers Construction for $174,100. That was for the demolition of the old city hall and the cleanup over there. Tetra Tech, who is our monitoring consulting group, who's taking care of following all the trucks around, finding out what we're owed, assisting us in navigating FEMA. They've not been paid, and so $627,558.63. And then our 2 haulers, Ash Britt, $696,543.09, and Crowder Golf, $800,599.30. What I have with me this evening in these 4 envelopes are all of the invoices that show what they're owed, and believe me, this is the tip of the iceberg of what they're owed. We have about 12 million more to hit them with, and then of course we've got the 4.9 that we just talked about in the workshop coming in, and then the other 4.9 million coming in. So that's looking up at about 9 million of the 12. So that takes it down quite a bit. But what I need a motion for this evening is these people need to be paid. And what I had asked for, and I talked about this at another meeting, that I had become very uncomfortable after the events in January and February of having a facsimile signature of mine on checks. And so for checks of this size, I had asked the city manager if we could do a special run for these 4 checks to get them done, and that she and I would hand sign these checks. And so when city manager presented that to the accounting department was uncomfortable with doing that. Because not that it's against any of the procedures, it was just something different than they had done before. So asking them questions, they were uncomfortable with some of the things before, apparently, but for whatever reason, we didn't realize they were uncomfortable because no one spoke up. So with all that said, if I could have a motion for this amount of money, which is about $2.3 million of the 2.5 draw that we just took out, to pay these people, I would appreciate that.
So moved.
And Mayor, if I may, I'll second the motion, but I was going to say, I think that we need to take care of our own. We need to take care of our people if we can. We're all in this together.
Thank you. So there's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions from the board about this or any discussion before I ask for a vote?
No question, Mayor, but I want to reiterate to the accounting department, please, if you ever have a concern, bring it to us, please. Thank you.
Sure. Well, my problem earlier, the reason that we're bringing this before the commission is that, and this is not throwing any aspersions to any department, but what I've said before about the accounting procedures that we have right now with the auditing firm that we have, and the limits that are put on, and the different ways that we've been doing things for 20 years, for whatever reason, our accounting department did not feel they could speak up when a city manager asked them to write checks in excess of $1 million without a purchase order or an invoice. So that's why I had problems this afternoon when I was wanting to pay people, and the city manager could not go forward with a blue ink signature to take care of business. So something has been very wrong with the way accounting has been done with this firm, and I'm not saying anything illegal. I'm just saying that over 20 years we've fallen into a routine here that somebody in an accounting department, if a city manager came in and said write this check without the proper backup for it, that person felt they had to do it and couldn't come to this mayor or this commission and say something. So that's what I want fixed. So any other discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may. I would just like to say that I certainly understand how it got that way. I have great respect for our accounting department, and they've always been very open, and I hope that changes, that they can feel comfortable. Like Commissioner Russell said, feel comfortable to come to us, and I don't think you have to fear losing your job. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would add to that I would hope that any city employee who's ever made to feel uncomfortable would come before this commission, not just the accounting
If I may,
department.
I feel the same way, and I think that's the part of the turn of Brandon and I joining the board and where we wanna go as a city to move forward and make sure everyone's approachable to us. And if we don't have the answers, we'll send you the right people. It's probably the department heads out there or Miss City Manager or City Attorney, whatever we gotta do, but we wanna work for the citizens and the people that run our city, so I feel strong about that.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the board? Okay, at this time, would, Ms. Gaynor, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender? Yes. Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnell,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and thank you so much. This makes me feel so much better to have these people paid somewhat. The next item that I had in the mayor's report, is I met by phone, last Friday while I was out of town, with FEMA and our city manager, acting city manager, Vicki Gaynor, and several others, and the progress is still moving forward. I attended the concert in the park on Thursday, May 23rd, and enjoyed True Soul. We had a nice crowd out there, and our community services department is doing a fabulous job with those different events. I've met by phone with Congressman Neil Dunn twice to discuss progress on the hurricane relief bill, and then I was looking for an update on something else, but I think that concludes the mayor's report, and I want to apologize one more time for anyone who was here earlier during our budget workshop that did not have an opportunity to ask questions. And during the public commentary, if you weren't here earlier, I did offer that if you needed a couple of extra minutes to ask whatever questions you may have had from the public during that budget workshop, the amended budget, that we would certainly allow a little extra time for you to ask those questions. Commissioner Russell, do you have a report?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few items. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Following up with the city on the 4th Street paving again, Mr. Baker has informed me that it didn't get paved when Porter Park was paved, but he assures me that it should be done within the next month. That road is still dirt, unfortunately, and it needs to be taken care of, and I believe he's going to get it handled. Light at 17th Street, Mr. Miller's not here, but I know he's going to be a little disappointed. Oh, Mr. Miller, how are we doing back there, sir? Going to be a little disappointed as I have found out that we are getting a dedicated left turn lane, but we are not going to get a dedicated left turn light. Apparently, from what I'm being told, DOT turned us down for the light. The turn will help some, but I'm equally disappointed, Mr. Miller, because I wanted to see a left turn arrow there as well. Let's see, I've got the city's still working on the solution on 9th Street, 77 intersection, lanes being too wide and cars passing when they shouldn't be. I think Mr. Baker's got a solution worked out, but he's still finishing that up. Just so everybody know, the Long-Term Recovery Task Force, their next meeting will be the 4th at 2 p.m. at the Bay County Government Center if you want to come. That's when they're going to be passing out the final task force booklet with all the projects, 350 something projects. So, and the last thing I've got, Mayor, is some great news about Bay County in sports. For y'all that don't know, Bozeman made it to the Final Four. Unfortunately, they were sent home, but they are district champs for 1A, which I'm very proud of them. Mosley is our district champs for 6A, and they're going to the state tournament this Thursday. Actually, I think they're leaving tomorrow afternoon, but I think the first game's Thursday. And then Rutherford is our 5A district champions. So obviously we're, steeped in baseball in this area. To that end, I want to ask this commission to consider something. Page 14 in our budget, we have a line item listed as sports and extracurricular programs. We have $50,000 budgeted to help schools with extracurricular activities, whether it be band, sports, whatever it is. I know we've adjusted that to $25,000 this year. I'm hoping that we keep that at $50,000 next year. But I would like to make a motion that this commission write a $5,000 check to help Mosley baseball 6A team go to the state tournament. That was the motion, by the way, Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Russell has made a motion as part of his commissioner's report this evening. Is there anyone who would like to support his motion with a second?
I would second that motion.
Okay, and is there any discussion from the board?
What page was that, Dan?
So on page 14, under leisure services, it's sports and extracurricular programs.
If I may,
The original amount was 50,000, and we've adjusted it to 25, so we still have 25,000 budgeted for this.
Mosley baseball is an elite program. They've done well and gone to the state playoffs again and again. And they kind of run into a gauntlet with Archbishop McCarthy in the past, and their program's been dissolved for some, let's say, they weren't really on the up and up as a program, and they're no longer in the playoffs. So this could be a good year for our Mosley Dolphins to rival what they did in 2002.
So if I may, the money is there. It's already, been allocated over to the side for this particular.
They take on pretty big expenses getting down there.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. I don't.
Mayor, if I may?
Go ahead.
Yeah, this was a pet for me when we did the budget this year. That I felt like that, and it's not just for sports, band, clubs, they kind of get pushed to the side with money, and this next year is going to be even worse because I know the money is going to be tight with the school board. And I felt like that the city should look at stepping up and helping our local schools in Glen Haven. So this money was originally was put out there as an idea to help Mowat, Mosley, Bay Haven, North Bay Haven, and Glen Haven Elementary. It was the original conceptual idea. Obviously, this commission can do what they want with the money, but that was the original intent.
Mayor, if I may say something?
Please go ahead.
I have a bit of a problem with, after just having the workshop on our financial situation, being $70 million in debt, and we're wanting to support our local baseball team. I also am a bit concerned that if we should elect to give them this kind of money to go on I say field trip, I know it's not a field trip, keep telling I'm not a baseball person, to go on a tournament or whatever, then I would feel that we'd be obligated to do North Bay or Bay Haven, anybody in Glen Haven, we would be obligated to, give them money. And I go back to I come from the old school, and I feel like, have they done projects to try to raise money? I mean, I would ask those questions before I would just hand them money. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, you may.
The parents have tried to raise money. They've gone out and we did a fundraiser at my business, and that's kind of.
Commissioner, could you speak into your microphone because they can't hear you? Pull it up. Just pull it up to you.
Okay, so I just feel like it's something that's it gets overlooked. Mowat, Mosley. If we don't use this money for something like that, I mean these kids are going to have an experience that it's going to be with them their whole lives, and it'll mean a lot if they know that their city backed them up on it. I mean, the state playoffs is a big deal, and like I said, they've been trying. They've gone out and really beat the streets to try to raise money, and they don't know they're going until last week when they won the ball game, and then they have 5 days to try to get it together to get down there. So,
Is there any other discussion? Any from the public?
As far as
Yep. Hold on one second.
oh, sorry.
My thing is, what about our sports complex? Why can't that $5,000 go there? I have a granddaughter that plays softball. She hasn't been able to play spring ball, fall ball, and she has to go to Southport, and when they were asked to put it on Lynn Haven's website, could you please let these girls know they can go to Southport or go to Callaway to sign up? That's a conflict of interest. We can't do that. That's what was told to my daughter-in-law. So I have a problem giving Mosley, who my son's graduated from Mosley, $5,000 when we need to build our sports complex for these kids local that everybody can use, not just a select few. And it needs to get up and running. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a lot of teams, we're losing them. Yeah, they're not coming back because of the fact that it's a conflict of interest. We'll go somewhere else and give our money to some other community that wants us there.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, please.
Ma'am, thank you for your comments, and I certainly hope you hang around for the rest of the meeting because I think you'll like what I'm going to offer on line item 18. Thank you.
Is there any other comments from the public on this item? Come on up, sir.
Well, as far as the money for the sports, all right, our kids have all done without a lot.
If you would identify yourself.
Craig Duncan, I'm just a citizen here, but I'm also an athletic director for a little league team.
Okay.
But all of our kids have done without a lot. They've lost a lot. They have sports at the high school, and we're paying people from out of the state millions of dollars to clean this place up at very high rates. And I don't think the kids should be the ones suffer for that, in my opinion. So we think about it. If you do it so well in baseball that you can go to state, and then we're not going to spend money on that. How does that make those kids feel? Thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Leon Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue. I understand what you mean, Commissioner, about trying to help most guys. I went through that with my son. The parents had to raise money. But what about the kids this summer here in Lynn Haven? There's a new sports out, lacrosse. Are we trying to help these kids do this, or are we trying to send the grown kids off? We have to take care of these little kids first. If not, they're going to be in them black and white or green and white cars. Now, that's what we need to look at. Our summer program for kids. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, anybody else from the board?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Just so everyone knows where I am on this, okay, because I like to put it out there. I understand both sides of the argument here. I understand Commissioner Tender's side of the argument. I understand Commissioner Russell's side of the argument. I agree. I have two small children myself, so I agree. Children are of the utmost importance, okay? That they are my most precious thing in my life is my children, all right? But on the flip side, I also hear my father when we, first went into business and I wanted to buy stuff saying, son, the money ain't there. Son, the money ain't there. He said, hit my head, it's as clear as day. And if the money ain't there, the money ain't there, And so it's a torn situation right now in which we do want to help. I love children. I want to help them so much. But on the flip side, there's a responsibility to make sure that money is here to do what we want to do. And, so that's what we're weighing as far as the board. At least I'm weighing. I do want to help children so much. But on the flip side, I also want to make sure the adults are taken care of, which is a fiscally responsible government. So thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Tender?
I'm sorry, I just want to ask one more question. Is it a possibility that, unless it's already been done, is it a possibility that some of our, some of them, I guess we have two there done, candidates could donate to this through their campaign funds if they have to do something with? Is that a possibility?
If I may, I've already donated $600 through my business to Mosley Baseball.
Awesome.
I would like to say just one thing about the parks in general. I think after the 4 years that I've been here, everybody knows how I feel about the parks and what I've pushed forward for children in Lynn Haven that they didn't have before. I don't know how many of you are aware that because of the way the hauling contracts were written in 2013, that it was written so that the haulers were able to use our parks for debris. And that happened before I came in as mayor. And I was appalled on about the first week when I started driving around and looking at the different, at Kensall and at Kane Griffin and the sports complex. The parks were already decimated by the storm, and now to add insult to injury, they were being used for the debris. And at that point, when I realized what was happening, that's something that I was able to do because during the first 6 weeks of the storm, the mayor had the authority to make a decision like that. And I said, I want that debris out of the parks. Our parks, if we're still putting debris there, I mean, literally, it would still be a place for the debris at this point if that decision had not been made. So it looks as though our parks are far behind, but they're not. And FEMA is going to help us tremendously as we move into the next phase, which is called the 428 or 406 phase of the rebuilding and the revitalization of the city. We've been in cleanup, and now it's time to start rebuilding. And I hope that this commission would support, as we move forward, that we have many, many, many public workshops where people are able to come in and express their ideas and show them drawings and show them what we're thinking of and what has been brought to us, so that all of us are on the same page. I was a teacher at Mosley High School for 9 years. I was a teacher at Dean Bozeman for 7 years. And so both of those schools are very much a part of my heart. I was at A.D. Harris, which didn't have a baseball team or a football team. Those children didn't have those things at all. So the school district does have its financial budget as well. And it is a very difficult decision to make. But as much as I would like to support that, I might support it personally, but I don't think that as the mayor, I can divert my support from the city to one of the schools, because the school board has the largest budget in the county. So, I would probably consider supporting them personally, but I probably won't be able to support taking the city budget to support it. So that's what I wanted to say. Anybody else? Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
No.
Commissioner
Aldridge?
No.
Mayor Anderson.
And so that would not pass. I do think it was a very commendable motion, and it had merits to it, and it was a little difficult decision, except that I think, well, you already heard what I said. So, Commissioner Russell, did you have more in your report?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Aldridge.
Yes, ma'am. Quick question on that. Dan, are they 501c3? Is Mosley 501c3? Okay, thank you. Let me get my brain back in the game here. So for the last couple of weeks that since we met last, I've met with Adam a couple of times, our attorney here, met with Miss Vicky a couple of times to discuss a lot of the projects that are going to be going on in the rebuild coming up. As the mayor was saying, a lot of exciting times coming up. We are entering the rebuild phase. You guys want to be active in this because it will include ballparks. It will include ball fields. There's a lot of good stuff coming up. It's exciting times to be residents of Lynn Haven. So please stay involved in that. We have some balls rolling, but other than that, we don't have anything necessarily specific right this meeting to report on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Perno?
Just, thank you, Mayor. I just, wanted to say that, I met with our city manager, regarding an email I received, and she and I spoke, about it, and I turned it over to personnel. I also met with a citizen regarding, his need to annex his property to the county because he couldn't annex it to the city because he had his business was in the county across the street from city property that he owned, and I was advised by a city manager that it would be better if he petitioned the county versus the city. I spoke to a citizen on Illinois Avenue who asked about when we were gonna start mowing the right of ways on the roads, and I had just spoke with Mr. Baker, and he told me that I need to refer them to him. I'm kind of new at the thing, so it's kind of little stuff compared to many $1 million we just talked about. But I just wanted to make sure that I got his answer for him, and Bobby helped me out. So, and then I had another citizen ask me about pretty good sized pothole on Petty Drive, and I said I'd check into it again, and Bobby answered my questions. So, and I'm looking forward to working on the TPO. I know I think we're missing the boat on Mosley because I really want to celebrate them winning the state championship, and when they come back victorious, I hope to feed them all chicken wings at the restaurant and make them feel good. So one way or another, we're gonna celebrate their accomplishments, or we're gonna be proud of them for what they do when they get down there. So, you know, it doesn't hurt to try to get them some funding, but you know, we do that privately too every day, and we're proud to do it. So with all that said, I appreciate everybody, and I want to continue to work hard for the city of Lynn Haven. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may add, I think that you are an awesome addition to the commission, Mr. At this point, we're at item number 5, which is, item number 5, which is the acting city manager's report. Yes. Oh, I left you out, Commissioner Tender. I didn't do that purposefully.
That's because I've been talking too much.
No,
Okay.
Commissioner Tender.
Just a few things. I've been dealing with a lot of folks about ECPI, about the roof inspections. This record is just beating me to death over and over and over. I get at least 2 calls a day about, you know, how they're not inspecting. I received a call today. They were told when they called ECPI that they're no longer doing inspections in Lynn Haven. After checking with our acting city manager, she said they're supposed to be, but they're telling our residents that they're not. This is an ongoing problem. I have one lady that came to see me in person who is considering a class action suit against them because of the fact she's very, very worried that what happens if we have another storm, even a mild storm, and all these roofs start falling apart because they did not go up on the roof and inspect, you know, because they passed everybody by driving by or driving a drone over or whatever their methods have been. Anyway, so they have been the forefront of everything that I've been doing the last couple of weeks. And I've been getting a lot of calls about the FEMA help for removing property or removing trees and stuff on private property. I've been sending them all to the fire department and told them June 7th is the deadline. Hope I'm correct on that. And I got 2 calls today about our grants, our trust fund, wanting to know how to apply for that. So basically just talking to residents on their issues, but that's been the main thing, the whole roofing situation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I left you out, Commissioner.
That's all right.
Moving on to item number 5, the acting city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of meetings this past 2 weeks with the commissioners, with city attorney, with our accountant consultant, and with Tetra Tech, of course, who is our consultant for disaster recovery. I attended the Leadership Bay class and spoke with them along with some other city managers about the city and its recovery and what we were doing to rebuild the city of Lynn Haven. We met with some FEMA officials on a conference call. There are many grants out there to rebuild parks and sports complexes, and so we were on that call to see where some of those additional funding is, and we will be pursuing some of that as well. The RFQ for debris removal has gone out, and that bid will open up on June 24th. And that is the haulers. That's called in those terms. We are very close to moving into our temporary buildings. We got power today, and so now we're just looking to make sure that I think it's the underground fiber that WOW is responsible for, making sure that happens. But we will keep you updated when police department and the administrations move in. Our last concert series, if you haven't been out, it's a great time to come out. It's this Thursday. I think it's Wabi Sabi, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a great turnout every Thursday or Friday. Remember, the bathrooms are open. Our staff finished these bathrooms, have done a tremendous job. Concession stand is also open, so we invite you to come out. We met along with Mayor. She was on a call. We met with FEMA and also Jessica Stewart. She's considered the branch director, and also Melissa Shira. She's considered the deputy bureau for the chief for public assistance. And they were very helpful in giving us guidance on some of the things that FEMA would or would not cover and how we submit those things along with working with our Tetra Tech. So it was very, very helpful. And just so happened on the same day that we met with them, they let us know that our money had been obligated. So that was a great meeting. I've met also with the city engineer and city public works director on the stormwater plan. I think the city tasked the city engineers probably about 2 years ago to put together a stormwater plan, and that has come to fruition. Hopefully we'll be able to present it to you maybe at the next meeting and find out what it is that we are going to fix and the things we need to fix for our stormwater. We are happy to report that, and this was in our staff meeting, the utilities department has, no customer no longer has 1941 pipes. The city had this plan in place. It's taken 6 years to get this done, but it is done, and we're very, very happy to report that to you. So that's a great thing, and tell our utilities department thank you, because they worked very, very hard to get this done. We met with our claim adjuster, adjuster, and they brought us some really good news as well. The city has a $23 million policy, go up to $23 million, and they were very happy to report to us that they felt like that they could get every bit of that money for us. And so now our public adjusters will go into negotiation with the insurance company. We anticipate some money to come back fairly quickly, but that was really exciting news to know. As of last week, I think we were up to $29 million. And so, and our policy ended at $23 million. So we're very encouraged to know that we could easily get all of that money back for the rebuild of the city. Lastly, the summer program. One of the things that community services and myself have been doing is what can we do to get our kids involved this summer? There are not a lot of places that our kids can play simply because there are just not any buildings. And we did meet with Mosley a while back and finally came to some type of conclusion that Mowat is actually absolutely booked. Mosley is using that gym. Some of the other organizations are using the gym, along with Mowat themselves. And so we found some time in there to actually put together a summer basketball league, 11 and up. And that basketball league will be on Fridays and Saturdays. And so that's something that we can give to our children. We just want them to be active, and they felt our passion about that. And so we thank Mowat for opening up their doors to help us give our kids something to do this summer. And Mayor, that's all.
Thank you. So that takes us to item number 6, the city attorney's report.
No report at this time.
Thank you so much. Item number 7 is public commentary. This is an opportunity if you're here and there's something that you would like to address the commission about, or as I said earlier, if you were here for the budget workshop and had a question that you wanted to ask and you didn't have an opportunity to ask that question because we ran short of time, you're free to do that now as well. Anyone?
Leon Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue. You said we're looking for something the kids to do this summer. You got King Griffin Park down there in good shape. Why can't we sit down and make a plan to have a 3-on-3 basketball tournament down there during the summer for the kids from Lynn Haven? They got a tennis court, have a tennis match for the kids in Lynn Haven, sponsored by the city of Lynn Haven for the kids and the people in the city of Lynn Haven.
I like both of those ideas.
And Mayor, may I respond?
Yes.
One of the 3-on-3 tournament, we are actually planning that for the city of Lynn Haven for King Griffin Park. One of the things that we have to do is make sure that lighting is in place. And so that's one of the areas that we have to make sure safety is in place, and that all the kids are gathered together and have a safe place to play. The second part of that is that we are planning some other things to get King Griffin up and running. Of course, it is going to take time. We've started, cut the grass. We have our guys down there working. They are working diligently to try to get King Griffin up and running. The parts for the splash pad are in. So you will see them there every day working to try to get the King Griffin up and running. And we're excited that that's going to happen. But those are some of the things that we're talking about in terms of giving our children something to do. We'd love to sit down with you and come up with some other ideas. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And anyone else? Yes.
I need to do my name and address.
No, that's okay. You've already been.
But my name's Craig Duncan again. As far as the sports, stuff we do with kids, the Hammond Raiders is struggling to get kids. My team is struggling to get kids signed up for football. So that's something that goes on the whole summer. And next thing I had the splash pad. We tried to go to it yesterday and it's closed. Is there any way we could have it available on holidays when everybody's home? You know what I mean?
I made a post about that on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it or not. Because like I said, I was driving around all weekend and I drove down there and saw that it was closed. I immediately contacted our city manager and she did not realize that the community services director had closed it for the Monday. It is normally closed on Mondays for maintenance and just all the water deal and all that, but it should have been open on that holiday. I made a very public apology about that on Facebook because I was really upset about it. I think that you'll see it open in the future.
The next question, as far as, I heard debris removal contract.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys looked into what one of those trucks costs so we can have a truck?
What that means, sir, is, and I didn't know this either till we went through the storm,
Right.
but there is a FEMA procedure in effect that every city has to contract with haulers before a storm hits. So that's what we're doing now, is contracting with the haulers in case, God forbid, we have another hurricane. They'll be in place, and those are the ones we have to hire, and in order to be able to be reimbursed. So that's why it's set up that way. I didn't know either.
I like the way you think though, because I thought, why don't we buy a truck? We'll just cover our budget.
Yeah, well, it would help you guys the initial.
Well, I tried to fire them all in December and use our truck, so I think the same way you do. Sorry. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Yes, sir.
John Hankey, 515 Missouri Avenue. I have a problem here, about it. My shed got blown up in the storm, and I went to check with the city, and I was basically given residential plan review submittal forms, homes and additions. I need to build a large box. Building a house. Nobody's going to live in it. There's no plumbing. I honestly don't know the answers to half of the questions on this paperwork. I'm not a contractor. It appears to me that's what this paperwork is for. If y'all work out something, I own the property between me, the bank, and the tax collector. That's my property. I'm not violating anyone's rights. I'm not treading on anybody's personal space. The floor survived. I prepared it for another show. And so I thought, well, I better check with the city. I'm going to get across with the city. Now my friends tell me how stupid for ever telling the city about it. But I don't. And the other thing, if you can work something out, I'd sure appreciate that. The other thing, Lynn Haven Building Safety Department. Have y'all seen the gas station on 5th Street and 77? I was out on my bicycle the other day and I stopped by there and checked it out. People are parking under that broken awning because of a very popular seafood restaurant across the street. That post isn't bent. It's failed at the bottom. Steel posts tend to rust really bad where they meet concrete because of electrolysis. That post has failed. The only reason it hasn't fallen is because it's attached to the other awning. There's tremendous stress right there. And somebody's gonna park under there, they're gonna sneeze, and that's gonna be all it's gonna take. When that thing lets go, it's gonna fall. That whole area needs to be roped off. I don't know if the police can put up a police line or something, because somebody's gonna get hurt or killed. We're gonna get a good wind. And you know, because the last two Cat 5s are over 100 years apart, there's no guarantee we're going to wait another 100 years for one of them. We get another one before this year is out. So I was concerned about that, but I saw that thing is dangerous, and if we can come up with something, I mean, I'll pay for the permit.
I think, Mr. Hickey, as we've discussed already this week, but I think you're gonna see some discussion tonight about how building inspections and permitting and that kind of thing have been going on for a while, and there's gonna be some discussion here with the commission. I think you're gonna see some changes right away.
Yeah, I was lucky. My house held together, but I watched the roof go on down the street from me. One day, a bunch of guys who don't speak English showed up and threw on a roof, and I can look at it. I can tell you, the next good wind we get is coming off.
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Hickey. Thank you for coming out. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak this evening? Sure, go ahead.
Monica Hood again. Two things. One is I did see your comment about the porter or the splash pad. Just remember that employees need vacations too, and then so the city needs to make provisions for them, pay them time and a half or whatever to keep that open. Comment to me was, did you have a key that you could have gone and opened it? I don't know. But this next
You mean
thing
about
is-
me, did I
yeah.
have a key? Well, I didn't know it was closed until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a bit past time at that point, but I did make the comment, if I had known, I would have been down there.
Yeah.
I did say that.
And the next thing is, I see that there's a new stop sign on 7th Street, and I'm not sure if it's Georgia or Alabama. I always get this.
It's Georgia and 7th.
Georgia. I understand that there was a study done, and that the study was by the chief of police, that there was 40 tickets or whatever, in one day. I find that hard to believe because I lived right there and I've never seen police there. But a stop sign is a precursor to, according to Florida statutes, is precursor to a traffic light. There needs to be a study done with the strips to see what, it's not for speed control. It's for traffic. And you're supposed to have the strips go down and find out how much traffic is along that line for a stop sign. I know you've made I've heard the comment about, you would be happy with a stop sign in every corner.
I have said that.
So I don't think that that's realistic.
I didn't mean
And
every corner, but
I know, but I just all of a sudden we've got another stop sign up.
if I may, the commission adopted a traffic committee about 2 years ago because the study involved, the way it was written in Lynn Haven, you had to have a petition from your neighbors. There was a long trail of work for anything to be done. And I would say this is the first, I'm not criticizing, I'm just stating it. This is the first time I've ever had anyone before me who was complaining about having a stop sign. Most people who come up here are wanting a stop sign. And so we came up with that committee. Not only is it the police chief, but it's several people who are involved, and they look at several things. I'm not on that committee, but the committee decided that was a viable complaint, and they placed the stop sign there per the ordinance we came up with.
I just want to make sure it was done legally, because I think by Florida statutes, you're supposed to put the strips down to count, not just saying we have 40 traffic violations in one day, which, like I said, I would like to see that record then.
I will refer to the attorney, but I believe we've done nothing illegal because we had an attorney when we did our ordinance.
Because it's just,
I think there's maybe a case of misinformation. I see Chief Ramey's itching to get up here and speak.
And you may, Chief Ramey.
But
because I don't want to keep seeing stop signs.
I would make it clear.
I'll let attorney comment.
I would make it clear that, to the best of my knowledge, I am aware that the city of Lynn Haven's followed all of their code of ordinances and Florida law.
I think if you go back and watch the recording, I said there was between 38 and 43 cars that traveled through that intersection, between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. I did that study myself for a week straight, okay, and I told you there was multiple citations, but I didn't tell you we wrote 41. I think I followed the letter of the law.
I didn't know where, but, when you're doing 25, that's at least not with your job to stop you.
Of course. Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
Arlene Harrison. I can echo the frustration with not having an in-house permit person, and I'll leave it at that. But one of the things I did want to bring up was that I've been very impressed with Lynn Haven and how we've done the debris removal better than I think any place else in town. But one of the things that concerns me is that we now have a lot of dead wood everywhere, very dry, and we're looking at a very hot season, and I'm worried about the fire departments, not only in Lynn Haven, but in the county, dealing with, once the fire starts, I'm afraid of what the Chicago fire or something. And then another topic would be, I'm concerned about parking on Florida Avenue. There is the tag and tax office there that I understand we might be able to sell possibly that little property for $200,000. But what I would rather see with the business development that we're looking for on Florida Avenue, I'm hoping that we can turn that thing into a parking lot. I'd like to put that up to the commission to consider. And
that is on our agenda tonight to talk about.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes.
I should have read it. And I agree with the domestic violence. I would love to have the domestic violence officer here in Lynn Haven. And the interactions in the past that I've had with other services have been unsatisfactory to some extent. And I think I'll let someone else take the next topic.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else? Please come ahead.
Hello, Mayor.
Hello.
So I was here to.
Could you tell us your name?
So my name is Ted Roberts. I live
Thank you, Ted.
in the country club.
Yes.
Over in you got hit hard. I'm the president of the Lynn Haven Heritage Society, and we are having on Thursday a ceremony to honor the people, and this is the thing, and I think that's the correct one. This one's a little bit old, so it's going to be at the Minuteman statue. Right? So it's I don't know what the statue is. It's the Union Soldier statue. And it's on 8th Street at
Georgia.
And it's going to be at 10 a.m. On Thursday. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Is there anyone else? Okay, there appears to be no one, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. It only contains one item tonight, item 8, the minutes for the May 14th meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any comment or objection? There appears to be none. Is there any from the public? And there's none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Purno,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. So the minutes are approved for May 14th. There is no old business. We move to new business. Item number 9 is discussion and possible action regarding approval of resolution 2019-05-286. This is the mid-year budget amendment. And I would ask our acting city manager, Ms. Gaynor, if she could read the resolution.
A resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the adopted general fund, community redevelopment agency, and the approved enterprise fund budgets for fiscal year 2018-2019.
Okay, and is there any other comment you'd like to make about the amended budget, Ms. Gaynor?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Before I ask for a motion, I just wanted to make the comment that I know tonight there were several people who were here who left because they were upset that there was not enough time for them to ask questions. And it does say discussion and possible action regarding the approval. I'm wondering if there's any discussion that we would need to wait on this to give more time for the public to have input, or I offered them to stay, that I would give them time during the public commentary, and they did not stay. So I just wanted to bring that up if there's anybody that feels that we need to act on that. If not, someone can make a motion to move forward.
So moved.
Second.
So there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board? Is there any discussion from the public? Okay, Ms. Gainer, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perna,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so the resolution is approved for the mid-year budget amendment. Item number 10 is discussion and approval to post an RFQ for a third-party vendor to print, fold, and mail utility billing. Ms. Gainer, did you have a report for that?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, for the past couple of years, I know since I've been here, the utility billing is in-house. One person does it, and we have probably about 12,000 utility bills that have to go out monthly. It is very time-consuming, and it's not very cost-effective. We have kind of gone through the numbers, and we realize that it's better served for our citizens if we can get a vendor, put out an RFQ, and get a vendor that will do all of our mailing, folding, and sending it out to our citizens. Some of the great benefits of this with this utility billing of outsourcing is that we can communicate better with our citizens. If you'll see there's a couple examples that I attached to you. There can be a message from the mayor. There can be when there are events going on. If there were closure somewhere, you would know that every citizen will receive a bill. So at some point, we just like to put the RFQ out because to implement this, it will usually take about 5 to 6 months, which will put us into the next year anyway. But we wanted to get ahead of it, put the RFQ out, then whomever the vendor may be, work with them so that we can start that in the next fiscal year.
Okay, I appreciate the research on that, and I noticed that the cost that you listed, that it would be a savings of about $24,000 in the city to do it that way instead of the way we're doing it now, which is always interesting. So is there any other discussion about it?
Mayor, if I may?
Sure.
Vicki, have we looked into changing the software and hardware that we're using now to a more cost-effective method?
We have, and one of the things about the software that we have now is that they really have a monopoly on much of the city. Our IT person here, he can probably verify this as well, Tally Technology, in order to upgrade, usually when you get one upgrade, it costs you about $60,000, and then the next upgrade is another $60,000. The city did do some upgrades just to bring us up to par because we've been behind the curve in terms of the software upgrade, so we kind of brought it up to where it should be. But it's just to me, and just looking at what our customer service people have to do, it's just much more effective to do it outsourcing it.
Other comments or questions from the board?
Yes, Mayor.
Please go ahead.
I wanted to ask the acting city manager, are there actual companies that do this service?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, just that's all they do.
Yes. This is exactly the way that RQ would be written. It would look at companies who specialize in nothing but doing this. As a matter of fact, I have some examples if anyone wants to see them later on. But we have vendors who have contacted us that do the water and the utility billing in Miami, or Callaway actually outsources theirs as well. So it's just a very cost-effective way to get things done. Thank you.
Ms. Vicky,
Go
let me
ahead.
ask, what is the largest expense? I mean, we're saving $24,000 out of the current situation. What is the largest expense out of that?
I would say that the largest expense is the postage. It costs probably about $3,900, and then the overtime that we pay for someone to do it because it is such a large and arduous task.
And one of the reasons I kind of going along with Commissioner Russell here, I know that, when you're facing billing issues, many times if you can get away from paper and strictly electronic as much as possible, I'm sure we've looked at those avenues.
Yes, they do still have those. Citizens will have that available. And one of the upgrades, just so citizens know and the board know, is that we did put in effect the self-serve. And so when we start to upgrade our website, one of the things citizens will be able to do is go in and self-serve. They'll be able to go in and pay their water bills, and it'll be connected to our Munis software so that we will have a better connection of when you pay your bill, and make sure it's posted in the right manner. We like the self-service because it will give you some of the same information when we send out your building.
Is there anyone else with a comment from the board?
Mayor, if I may.
Please go ahead.
So we're looking at saving 18 hours a month in labor. Is this labor that's going to be lost to the employee, or are they going to be redirected to other jobs?
Good question. They're going to be redirected to serving our customers, because that is one of the major things that I see as important, is coming out and sitting down with customers who don't understand their bill. Speaking with customers, one of the things we want to look forward to in the future, if this is passed, to get this out and then to divide up the utility billing so that the customer service have more of a personal touch with the customers that they deal with every day, and they will be able to help those customers. It'll kind of be their customer base. Each one will kind of have their own customer base, and I think we can do that. So it will just really add more work in a sense, because now you may not have to call mayor to ask about a utility question. You can actually call their customer service department to get some answers. I think it's just going to put us much in touch with the customers. If I may.
Please go ahead, Commissioner Tender.
I would just like to say that I appreciate the fact that our acting city manager is working very, very hard to increase customer service in our city. And I love the idea of having more of a personal touch. People like to be able to talk to people. I don't know about, again, I'm very old school. I'm so tired of calling and talking to a recording and listening to them give me a million instructions before I get where I want to go. There's nothing better than face-to-face contact for customer service. And anything that we can do to go in that direction, I think not only maintain the quaintness of our fine city, but I think it will, it just helps blood pressure alone when you're trying to deal with stuff like this. So I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you.
Is there a motion for approval for item number 10, or is there more discussion?
I make a motion, we approve.
Okay, Commissioner Tender has made a motion to post an RFQ for a third-party vendor to print, fold, and mail utility billing, correct, Commissioner Tender?
That's correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
So there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any from the public? Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, so it stands approved unanimously. Moving on to item number 11. This is approval to appoint community services board members, and those applications are contained in the board packet this evening. And our acting city manager, I believe, has a report.
Yes. Mayor, before the storm, we were diligently seeking community service board members, and couldn't quite reach that number 5. And so, of course, after the storm, our focus was probably in a couple other places. But now we have 5 people who would like to serve on the community service board. I think it's going to be a great board because it's going to help give us some direction in terms of the sports activities and things that we will do in the near future.
Perfect. Is there a motion to approve the community services board members' applications?
So moved.
Is there a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Any from the public? And there's none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So congratulations to those board members, and Commissioner Russell, thank you for being willing to do that job as well. I'm just kidding. It was just a joke from the mayor. Sorry. Item number 12 is discussion and approval to hire a budget manager to assist the finance department with implementation of additional accounting oversight of the city's budget and the city's sub-budgetary disaster accounts management processes. And I believe the acting city manager has a report on this as well.
Yes, Mayor. For a while, our county department has been very lean, and we noticed that once we're getting into the reimbursement process, that we are going to need other folks to help focus on many of the reimbursements, some of the budget line items, working and even being in some of the FEMA meetings, keeping an eye on our budget, putting in some controls, making sure that department heads are following guidelines, and keeping the city manager informed of any major disturbances in our finances, working with the finance department, helping pick up some of the slack. There is just a lot to be done. Right now we have two people. We have the deputy finance director, and then we have an accounting specialist, and it's just not enough people to get this massive job done at this point.
Thank you. And I have met with Ms. Gaynor and listened to her discussion about the budget manager. And I won't go into all that during this meeting, but I will tell you that I completely concur with her, what she has spoken about. There are many intricacies to what we are navigating right now with FEMA and making sure that everything's properly done so that we're reimbursed. And we've done a good job of this so far, and we'd like to continue in that light. And so I certainly concur with what you are asking for.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
I want to make sure, I was wanting to ask this question. The budget specialist, once we're done with all the FEMA and everything, will this person have something to do? That would be my first question. But secondly, if this will help with checks and balances, that's what we are in severe need of. So if that position is going to help create those checks and balances, I'm in favor for sure. Thank you.
That is very correct. Checks and balances is at the top of the list. And yes, this person will have more than enough to do. This recovery funds, sometimes it takes, and I know you've all heard it, that sometimes it takes 5, 6, 7 years for some reimbursements to come through. We hope that's not the case with City of Lynn Haven, but there will be lots of duties that this budget manager will perform besides FEMA reimbursements. But yes, checks and balances will be a big part of it.
And if I may add one more thing, after my conversation with Ms. Gaynor, is that the budget manager would also be someone that the commission could easily access, because Ms. Gaynor is working with so many other things, and this will be somebody that I, the mayor, or the commissioners could go to with budget questions and get a ready answer, because that person would have hands on everything from invoices to checks being written, whatever. So,
Mayor?
yes.
Do we have any numbers of what this position is going to cost the city in terms of salary, benefits, and retirement?
You want to address that from
We have looked at a couple of, and just let me tell you, preliminary, we've looked at a couple of budget managers, and we can give you a range, but until you say yes to us, then we can really go out and put together an analysis and bring it back to you if we like. But we like for this position, we're asking that this position, first of all, have a BS degree in one of the areas of accounting, finance, and maybe even a CPA. So we know that that's well past $50,000 to $60,000.
So the city will have 2 CPAs hired.
That would be possible.
Ms. Vicky, if I can piggyback on that, is the assistant, since they are going to be handling FEMA, issues, will that be a reimbursable position for 4 or 5 years, however long we have FEMA around?
We can surely check and see if that's a possibility.
And and also in support of Ms. Gaynor, when she was appointed as the acting city manager, one of the constraints that was placed upon her was the ability to hire or fire employees. And so that's, this is something that she, as the acting city manager, sees a need for, and I agree with her. But she has to come before the board to be able to do it. She's not able to just hire or fire as the other city manager was, so.
Mayor, if I may, is this position, do you want that person to start immediately? Is there a projection on when you want that person to start?
They would start immediately. As soon as we get your approval, we would put out, solicit for applications, and then once the applications come in, we would interview and hire. So we go through the process. It wouldn't be one of the things we don't have anyone in mind. We just want that position to be in place.
Any other questions or comments? Any from the public? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Was that a motion for approval? Okay. There's been a motion for approval and a second. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Gainer?
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
No.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So it stands approved. Moving on to item number 13. This is discussion and possible action regarding tearing down the old tag office on the corner of Florida Avenue and 8th Street, also once the post office in Lynnhaven, to use land as space for paid parking. And this item was placed on the agenda by Commissioner Tender. Commissioner Tender, do you have a report?
Actually, the reason I wanted to bring this to the commission's attention is the fact that right now it's a hazard. Everything is hanging out. Our public works folks did an amazing job. They went in and cleaned the parking lot out because people were afraid to park in there because of tacks and nails and such. And it's wonderful now. I know the city, at one point before the storm, this was on the market to be sold. And I'm not even necessarily opposed to that. What I would like to see, or I would like to actually make a motion, that we just get our city manager to get us costs for demoing this building. If nothing else, at least get the eyesore down and the hazard involved. The beginning of October, we're going to be having a block party there. And as it stands right now, it would be a huge hazard for having people walking around that area with that the way it is. I have said on more than one occasion, if the city ever decided to keep it, get the kind of arms like they have at the hospital or whatnot, charge $2 to park or whatever. But that's if the city decided to keep it. My concern is the upcoming events and the hazard that's involved.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender has made a motion. Is there a second to her motion?
Mayor, could you have her repeat what the motion was?
Go ahead, Commissioner
Sure.
Tender.
My motion was to ask our city manager to get us quotes and get a cost on what it would cost to demo this building. That's the motion. To see if it would be feasible to go ahead and take the building down versus selling the property. We obviously can't get what we were wanting for it before. So to me, it would just seem like a good starting place. Let's just see what it costs to tear it down. If it costs more than the building's worth or the property's worth, then obviously we could take a different direction. But I just wanted to see if it was feasible.
Mayor, I'll second that motion for this point of discussion.
Thank you. And since there has been a second, I would just like to add, and I know the motion was just to look for the cost of demolition, but I do know as part of our paving plan in Lynnhaven, which we will be resuming soon, Florida Avenue is set to be one of the streets paved, and there is a plan to sort of make it look historically correct with pavers and making it look really beautiful. And we do have events there. Our parades, 2 of them go down that street, and we've had several events in the past, and we'll be continuing those once the storm is over. And we're also beginning to get more businesses there. There is a great deal of interest in purchasing buildings and opening little shops and boutiques there, which is a great vision. I could see that easily as parking for Lynnhaven as we, have all these different events going on. Roberts Hall has the music going on. We have the concerts in the park, and there is very little parking. And so, that lot, if it were cleared, would leave the way open. Maybe we could add that, with a motion from the commission to our paving project, and make it really pretty with some sort of gas lighting and things like that to make it look like almost like a park when it's not being used at night for parking. So there's been a motion and a second for demolition. Is there any further discussion or any comments the rest of you would like to make?
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I think the commission's aware that I don't believe that the city should be in the landlord business. So, I mean, short of tearing it down and making it a parking lot, I would personally be against charging for parking. I mean, if we're gonna do it, you open up, make it for the public. But personally, I'd rather see that property sold and that money brought back into the city to help pay for our hurricane damages. But that being said, I have got no problem supporting asking the city manager to go out and get the price, with the understanding that it's gonna come back to the commission to make the final decision. Thank you, Mayor.
Is there any further discussion? And also one more comment, in getting that price for demolition, because it was damaged in the storm, that should be reimbursable by FEMA for demolition of a public building, so that needs to be considered too. Okay, would you please call the roll, Ms. Gaynor?
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so that is approved, Commissioner Tender, and thank you for bringing that. The next item is item number 14. This is the discussion and approval to award Phoenix Construction Services the contract for Porter Park improvements, Phase 2 through the Restore Act grant. I believe Chris Forehand, who is the city engineer, has that report.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Back on January the 29th, we bid out the Porter Park improvements, which is actually Phase 2. We've been working on this for about 3 years now, so it's ready to get built. We received 2 bids. One was from GAC Contractors for $985,000. Another one was from Phoenix Construction for $922,000. There were several things that were added and taken away during the process of the park. We had originally thought that the restore funds were going to fund $450,000, and the city was looking at somewhere around $150,000 of their funds to spend towards the park. So, with those bid amounts, there were about $325,000 over budget. So we sat down and met with Phoenix and city staff, did some value engineering. We cut some of the things out of the park. Some of the things we cut, as I listed in my letter, were some of the small grills, some of the park benches, and some of the landscaping and lighting. And we didn't cut it all out. We just cut about 50% out of the plans. And so we were able to get Phoenix down to a price of $449,380 just for the restore grant funded components, and then for the remaining $160,000 for the paving and some of the stormwater, it was decided to maybe use the half-cent funds to be able to pay for that. So what I've given you is a recommendation to award the project to Phoenix.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion or questions from the public? There appears to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. So it is approved, and we'll move forward with the park. Yay. Item number 15. This is discussion and approval to give the acting city manager the authority to hire a building inspector and a building official, or send out an RFQ to solicit a building inspection company for the city of Lynn Haven. Did you have a report? Go ahead.
Mayor, as many of you may know, that we did receive a resignation from epci. We had many complaints. Residents were very, very unhappy. I did send them an email and say, we met several times. We gave them several opportunities to probably clean up some of the complaints that we had been receiving from residents. And we felt like in the email I stated that yes, our citizens do deserve better than this, and a massive amount of work. And we want our citizens to be served, and we felt like they were not. And so they did send in their resignation, and it was effective after 90 days. And so now we are in the process. We put together kind of an analysis of what it would cost to hire in-house as opposed to a building inspection company. One of the things that we would like to do, if in-house, is to try to move all of the permitting specialists over up under the building department, so we would have a building a building inspector, we would have a building official, the permitting specialist that's already in place, and another permitting specialist, and kind of create a department there. Or we can send out an RFQ and solicit bids for the best bidder for this job.
I appreciate that report, and I did want to make one comment before asking for other comments. Over the time that I have been mayor, another one of the questions that I continually ask our old commission was to consider a different route for our building inspection. I make no apology that I've had a long-term discussion of disapproval with EPCI, but I could never get the old commission to agree with me on that. But in light of that, I wanted to point out, I've had some discussions over the past week, but I also had earlier discussions since I've been mayor with Michael Gordon, who is a building official. He is employed by Panama City Beach and does some work for Washington County, whereas ECPI was serving almost every city in this county. So I just wanted to, I can't make a motion, but I wanted to say that I think it would be a smart thing to do. If you're not familiar with Michael Gordon, he has a great reputation. You can check with Panama City Beach and the different entities in Washington County, and that you might consider a 60-day employment with his company while we are transitioning to whether we want an in-house building inspector or a vendor, or maybe a combination of the two, which is how he serves Panama City Beach. So I just wanted to throw that out to you, and Mr. Gordon is present tonight, and he is a resident of Lynn Haven. He lives right here in our city, and he's committed to our city, and I just wanted to endorse him and say how a good a job I think that he would do for us, and that a 60-day trial, while we're looking, might give us some thoughts, processes about exactly where we want to go about having one or the other or both. So I'll just leave it at that, and anybody else have a motion or some discussion?
Mayor, I do have a couple of things to say and a couple of questions. I'm of the opinion that this needs to be brought back in-house. I think that we have to have somebody, a building official in-house that has to answer to the city manager. A customer or a contractor can do exactly what EPCI did. We're done, we're sending you a letter, we'll go down the road. We need an employee that has to answer to our city manager and has no other recourse. That being said, the resignation letter that we received from EPCI had some allegations in it, and I want to address them and ask some questions. Obviously, he's implying that the previous city manager shifts some staff around, and I think I understand that, and I believe that probably did happen. But there is one statement here that's got me concerned, and I want to know if the city manager has looked into it, and if she has an answer for it. If she has not, I want her to find the answer, if there is one. The statement that I'm going to read is directly from his letter, and it says, "We actually have reports that a permit was issued at the direction of Mr. White to a city official without benefit of a plan review or appropriate application." If that's done, then there's a problem. And I don't know if the city manager has the answer to that. If she doesn't, I'm asking her to look into it.
So do we have an answer or we don't have an answer?
No, ma'am, I will look into it.
Okay. Is there other discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead, please.
I'm also very much in favor of having our own city inspector because I think they can be held more accountable. I also think it's a good idea to do a 60-day trial of a company just to have ourselves covered, because ECPI is doing nothing now. I mean, like I said earlier, I've been told by residents, if you call them, they will tell you they're not doing anything for Lynn Haven. So we can't let all of our folks sit while we hunt either a new building inspector or decide to hire a company or whatever. I was talking to somebody about it who at one time was a building inspector, and their concern was, they said it's not going to happen overnight. They said it takes some hunting to get a good building inspector, and it's my understanding that the one we used to have has now opened his own business, so he would not be in that market, I don't think. So it just makes sense that we would hire somebody temporarily so that our people, I had a call today, I'm not kidding, I get them every day about roof inspections. And I had no answer for this person because I said ECPI is not doing anything. And we're gonna look into, I told them we were discussing this tonight. So I said, all I can do is just say, hang on just a little bit longer until, we can take some action. So it seems to me we have to have some kind of coverage until we can hire our own person or decide what we're gonna do. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. Is there any further discussions on the board?
Mayor, if I may,
Sure.
before we make the decision to go to another contractor for 60 or 90 days, I would like to suggest that maybe the acting city manager reach out to the county and see if they can cover us until we have our department set up. I mean, that's just a suggestion, but we've got roughly 60 plus more days before this is going to terminate. So, I mean, there's no reason we have to make a decision tonight to either go with another contractor for 60 days or can go with the county. I would suggest that we do make a hard decision on whether we're going to bring it in-house or go outside so that she can move forward with it though.
If I may, Commissioner Russell, the county also uses EPCI for their inspections. Every city in the county is using it.
The county has their own inspection service, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I was thinking that they were working for every city.
No, ma'am, and actually Panama City Beach has their own inspection service too.
Well, I mentioned that in the beginning, Commissioner Russell. But what I would like to point out is, first of all, if the county has its own inspection service, where I was going with that, and I would like to say that in light of the fact they have so many inspections of their own going on, I think by utilizing them, that we're going to be right back where we are now, that we don't have enough coverage in Lynn Haven because EPCI was servicing every other city. And so I think that if we had someone who's only serving one city, who has a great reputation, and I just believe that would be a good place to go. As far as us being covered for 60 more days with EPCI, we haven't been covered with EPCI at all. We've had citizens in here complaining every meeting that they see them drive by, nobody gets out, nobody gets on a roof. And the letter that they wrote, I found pretty insulting to the city myself. I don't know if you did, I found it insulting. And so I am totally against using someone from the county who's probably already overworked with all of their inspections. So just putting that out there.
Mayor, if I may.
Please go ahead, Commissioner Perna.
I just want clarification that EPCI is not doing any inspections right now and we're still paying them?
Our citizens have come in for week after week. My phone, my phone every day is ringing with people telling me that they can't get this done, they can't get a permit, they can't get an inspection, and this has been going on for months.
I know they wrote us a lovely letter, but we should cease and desist if they're not doing their job.
Well, they resigned, so as far as I'm concerned, I don't know how that is legally, Mr. Attorney, but if someone resigns, are they not done?
Mayor.
You're out of order.
Mayor, the contract, and I'm trying to look up the contract now, calls for a 90-day termination notice. During the interim of notice to terminate and the 90th day, both parties should comply with the contractual obligations. I mean, ECPI should perform under the contract, and likewise so should the city. I'm hearing tonight that the EPCI might not be complying or is not complying with the terms of the contract during the 90-day termination period. If that is the case, Lynn Haven needs to know before they write a check to EPCI, and if there's any invoices during the 90-day period, we need to verify that the work was done. If the work is being done, which they're obligated to do, then obviously the city of Lynn Haven will be obligated to pay. If the work is not being done, we receive invoices, then the city should certainly be aware of that. That may be basis to terminate prior to the 90 days, a complete terminate.
And so if someone resigns, they're telling me they're not doing the work. I'm confused. I understand what a contract means. I have a degree in language and literature. I get contract. But these people have resigned, which tells me they no longer want to work for us. Am I incorrect on that?
Correct. But my guess of, it's pure guess, but the construction of the contract One party did not want to be left standing at the end of the altar without another party. So in this case, the city of Lynn Haven not wanting having somebody to do the inspections without some notice before you quit. You just can't up and leave us, is what it says. And the same thing for EPCI. Their protection was you can't just leave us, tell us goodbye today. And that is under the termination without cause. I just pulled it up under the contract.
So what is your advice to this commission that we should do tonight about this?
Find out if EPCI is actually doing something. If they're not doing anything, then we need to look at terminating them for cause, which would allow for an immediate termination. Or if we have a replacement for them, we can reach out to EPCI and say, we do not need your 90 days anymore. Please, good luck with your other endeavors. But right now, there's a 90-day period that both parties are obligated to the other.
Are we forbidden to add an additional inspector so that the people in Lynn Haven can get inspections actually done?
Without time to look at the contract in further detail, I could not tell you that. I would suggest that we determine if ECPI is not doing anything. That gives us the grounds for that's an immediate breach of the contract, immediate termination. We do not need the 90 days. If that is in fact happening, that's where I would suggest that the city of Lynn Haven look at. Is EPCI actually doing their job since the 90-day termination? If they're telling people they don't work for Lynn Haven anymore, then we need to look at the other provisions of the contract which allow for immediate termination.
So do we need to table this discussion until the next meeting? Is that what you're saying, or what are you telling us?
At this time, you're under contract with EPCI. If you hire somebody right now, you will hire a competitor to the existing contract with the city of Lynn Haven. At this point, what I would suggest is the city determine what, if anything, EPCI is doing. If they're not doing anything, then we have a cause to terminate immediately. There are certain provisions under the contract for breach for cause.
The only problem that I have with that is that over the last months, and I don't mean this to sound like a vendetta, but my phone is the one that rings. My phone is listed. We have department heads with the city who don't have listed phone numbers, but mine is listed. And I get a call after call after call, telling me that EPCI has said they did an inspection when people have waited all day long for them to come by and they never came, or they said they've seen them drive by and then claim to go on the roof. So if EPCI said they were doing something then, and my residents here in Lynn Haven said they weren't, then who's telling the truth? And how do we determine that? And how do we find out what they're doing?
Mayor, I'm not trying to
I'm just asking. I'm just trying to be the devil's advocate for the people. Who's going to advocate for people?
The commission might want to consider is giving the authority. If one of the options I heard was either or a county or this individual that you mentioned, giving the city manager the authority to enter into a short-term contract and put parameters to that. But prior to the city manager actually entering into that, let's investigate to ensure that the city complies with all it has to contractually, because in this case, I believe that the city has some very strong arguments, and we don't want to change the dynamic of that should there be any litigation later on with EPCI.
Okay, over the mayor's extreme objection, is there someone who would make a motion? Well, I guess we have someone from the public who wants to speak, so go ahead, please, sir.
James Finch, 410 East 2nd Street. I'm a contractor living in Lynn Haven, been here all my life. And I do know that you have to have two lawyers in one town to one of them get rich. And I know something else. Your building inspection guy has left. He's quit. If y'all don't understand that, y'all need to. I've got a building over there that's got a sticker on it since Thursday was a week ago. That means it's approved. And I can't get them to call Gulf Power to turn the power on. Period. They've left. They're gone. I would fire their ass. I would give me somebody to get into City Hall because I can't go find them. Where is ECP? Where are they in a pickup truck or they gone to the beach or something? I need to go into City Hall and see somebody. Go in there, put somebody in there, temporary or whatever. Put Gordon in there and say, hey, work 60 days. I want you here at 10 o'clock in the morning for 10 to 12, and I want you here at 2 to 3. Somebody can come up there and find somebody. You can't find anybody right now. But your inspector is gone. He's bye-bye. It's over. So, I mean, if you put it off, you just keep putting everything else off. It's time to do something. And let me tell you something. We didn't elect no lawyer up here. And he's a friend of mine. But I don't listen to my lawyer most of the time. Someday, if I go to courthouse, I'm gonna listen to him, but I ain't gonna listen to him on business decisions. You need to put somebody up there to inspect these buildings, sell these building permits, or run their ass out of there. It's real simple. But I can't find the guy to turn my power on. You know, here's the whole deal. You should eliminate that. If you got a sticker, you want to be able to turn the power on. But no, they got it so they have to call. So I've had a building over 18,000 square foot building with no power for 10 days with a sticker. So I want somebody in the city hall. Y'all need to put a guy in the city hall, a building inspector. If you need to get him some help, you get Mike to help him. Mike's got crews and the whole deal. But you put somebody that the citizen can go up there and go in the city hall and find somebody. If they can't find him, they go see Vicky and say, hey, where's the man at? I want to buy a permit. You can't do that right now.
That's right.
So if you put it off, you just put everything else off.
Thank
You
you,
don't
sir.
need to do that.
Thank you. Is there
Mayor?
anyone else?
Mayor?
Oh, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to say that I would be happy. I tried personally to get a hold of ECPI for 3 weeks, and I challenge anyone to call their office number 3 times a day, every day, and you might get somebody to answer the phone 2 weeks later. And at that point, the girl there says, well, I will call the owner. I'm not sure if Bo Creel is the owner or not, but that's who. I will call him and have him call you. Then you call back 3 days later. She goes, oh, yeah, let me get him a message and I'll have him call you. So let me just say this. I have the office number. I have Bo Creel's cell phone number. And I understand Bo Creel has a personal number that he never gives out. So I don't have that one. But you can even call his cell phone number. And you might get him to call back and you might not. But that doesn't mean any action is going to be taken. That's been my experience. That's been the experience of everybody that comes to me and complains. And last week alone, I had a gentleman call. See, ECPI had a lady come out. She got on a ladder. She climbed this man's roof, walked all over it, came down and said, sir, I can't approve you. Your roof does not pass inspection. The man became rather upset. And she explained to him why it didn't. There were things out of place. I'm not a roofer, but there were issues. So 1 block down, ECPI was down there in a car. So the man walked down and he said, hey, I had this lady come by. She climbed up on my roof. She didn't give me approval. What's the deal? The employee of ECPI said, she doesn't know what she's doing. And he said, well, she said she's an engineer. Well, yeah, I know she's an engineer, but she doesn't know what she's doing. He says, here, I'll walk on down. So he goes down. He walks around the building, literally walks around the building, said, here, I'll pass you. And he passed him. Never got on the roof, but he saw pass you. Yeah, against what the other employee said. And I did call Mr. Bo Creel about that. And I said, now, your employees are giving conflicting. Who do they trust? The person that was on the roof or the person that's just walking around? Who also said he couldn't get on the roof because it was too hot and, you know, the glue melts and all this kind of stuff, whatnot. I was told by Mr. Creel that was not true either. So bottom line, I mean, we have a serious issue here. And I don't know what to tell people either anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. I had one more from the public who wanted to comment.
You know, I don't know how many of y'all have ever run a business, but when people don't show up, they're not performing for your customers, your business doesn't go on. You know, I work for D.R. Horton, and we are way behind on permits in Andrew's plantation. You know, if I don't show up for my job, guess what happens? Get fired. All right. So if we've got customers, which being us, calling in and complaining that they're not doing the inspections, can we not have a written account of that and have it, you know, a policeman or somebody go take an account of it so we have proof? Hey, they just breached the contract. We terminate them and we don't pay them anymore. And every day we sit here without somebody doing it, we're losing out on money from it. We're losing out on new homes being built, other businesses being able to create revenue. So it's ridiculous, in my opinion, to be sitting here talking about it for an hour.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Anyone else? At this point, is there a motion from the commission?
I'll make a motion that we hire this company temporarily until we can decide whether we're going to hire our own inspector.
If the company that I referred to was Mike Gordon and Associates LLC.
Yes,
Is that,
that is the one I'm talking about.
thank you. Is there a second?
Mayor, if I may, can we just take 24 hours to document?
Well, there's a motion on the floor, so we have to wait and see if there's a second, and then if there's not a second, then we can move to something else.
We do have to have permits going.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Perno, your discussion?
I would just say, I mean, just to satisfy the letter of the law from our lawyer, if we just took 24 hours to gather as many complaints as possible and terminate the contract and do our diligence that way. I know we have many examples tonight, but satisfy the lawyer and in a short term and call these guys by 5 o'clock tomorrow and then hire the company. You know, if we hire him tomorrow, I know he'll be on the job tomorrow. But if we took till 5 p.m. tomorrow, I guarantee you through social media or just sheer examples from your phone ringing and what Ms. Tinder said and what Mr. Finch said, we'd have enough fuel in the fire to put these people on notice and then, you know, make it happen at 5 p.m. tomorrow after we did the cutoff on the other business, just to be sure you satisfied both ends.
Okay. Is there
Is that a caveat enough, or?
Well, we're not actually hiring though at this moment.
She's moved to hire.
I thought it was just a 60-day trial.
She said temporarily.
Yes, temporary, 60 days.
Mayor, if I may.
Please go ahead.
So we're gonna define temporary as 60 days then.
I believe that was her motion.
She never actually stated the number of days, she just said temporarily.
Yeah, 60 days is fine.
Okay, Mayor, may I continue?
Sure.
Just to clarify, I've don't know this gentleman, I got no problem hiring him temporarily. I just wanted us to look and see which was cost effective, whether it's county or him. But I am adamant that I want it brought back in-house. I mean, that's my goal, is to have a an employee of Lynn Haven as the building official. That's what I want to see happen. But on a temporary basis, I don't have an issue with hiring him, but I just, want to make sure we're doing this financially responsibly, and the end goal is to have somebody in-house again, for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the board with comments?
I'm sorry, I have one more comment.
Please go ahead, Commissioner Tender.
It's just like having someone come to the emergency room and they're bleeding to death. We can't not take any action and put everybody on hold for every single question and everything that we need to do. We need to at least put a Band-Aid on it until we can call in specialists, And I agree with Commissioner Russell. I'm all for an in-house. I'm all for that. But I think the situation is right now we've got to get some help so that our residents, we have residents waiting. They won't even get their insurance money until they have an inspector. I mean, this is hurting our people horribly in a real bad financial way. And it's horrible to have to tell them, oh, I know, here's all the numbers I have, just keep calling. I mean, that makes us look foolish for even hiring these people to begin with, but that's a different story. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. Is there any further discussion on this matter?
Mayor, one more thing.
Please go ahead.
Do we have any idea what the cost of this is going to be? I mean, it sounds to me like we're just kind of open-ended, hiring him. If we give the directive to hire him.
I do have some ideas based on the meeting that I had with this individual, and I am certainly not trying to push Mike Gordon down anyone's throat. I just happen to know him personally. I did check with some of the comments from the beach. The beach is very pleased with what he's done out there. What he did tell me is that some of the comments he has heard is that Lynn Haven has some of the highest permitting fees of anyone in Bay County, and that one of his goals, if he were to be asked to do that position for whatever length of time, would be to try and assist us with maybe mitigating some of that for our residents. And so I am certainly not trying to override your comment about the county, or I'm not trying to push anyone on anyone. It's just that I know this man personally. He has great integrity. He lives in Lynn Haven. He is someone who would work to help Lynn Haven. And so that's why I brought the name forward, for no other reason.
Mayor, if I may, one more comment.
Please go ahead.
How much would it cost if we had to pay ECPI or out the rest of the term? And if it takes just till like noon tomorrow and we could
do it properly and put them on notice. I don't want to see us go and hire somebody and then be on the hook to pay these guys for the rest of the contract. I would rather just do that. Just do it till noon tomorrow so we can put them on notice the proper way. The city attorney's asking for just a little bit of caution, and he'll do his diligence. But if we do this right now, they could potentially come back and have us on the hook to finish paying them. And I don't want to give them another dime.
And I have great respect for the city attorney. He's led us through some very, very difficult times, but he and I don't always agree either. We don't. And I can read the letter that EPCI wrote us, and I think they would be hard pressed to prove to anyone that we fired them. They quit. They quit. But if, I certainly am listening to what you're saying, Commissioner Perno. I have the greatest respect for you. I think you're a wonderful addition to this commission, and I think your ideas are good. I think that there's merit in what you just said. I'm just vehemently opposed to one more day of the residents of Lynn Haven having to deal with this, and I won't use the word, but that's what they're having to deal with. It's unacceptable. So I'm done, but I do respect what you said.
I have confidence in you too, and if we're at the point where we have confidence in our city attorney and we can just cut this contract out and not have to pay them, that's fine.
Mayor, may I say something?
Please, go ahead.
A possible solution would be to amend the motion to hire Mr. Gordon pending the termination of EPCI, and then terminate EPCI tomorrow before you hire this gentleman.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And that's what I'd suggested with the alternative, is that we give the city manager the authority to hire either the county or this business pending the resolution. Now, with that being said, I don't know if EPCI has been submitting billing. They get paid per the permits issued. So I don't know, maybe they have disappeared. I just don't have those facts to make that recommendation in an open public meeting. My job is to give the best advice I can. And at this point, I don't have enough facts.
Thank you very much.
I prepare a payment request for them every month based on the number of permits, amount of permits that we've sold. They get 75% of what we have collected every month. They haven't been paid for April yet.
I completely agree with what you just said, but the question remains, since they're receiving the 90-day termination, have they quit billing? That would be an indication that they've abandoned the job.
Yeah, they don't bill. We prepare it.
Do we have any evidence that they've done any work for the city?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Well, I certainly understand the urgency. I think there are some arguments the city of Lynn Haven can make to the mayor's point. If there was litigation, they're paid for the work that's done. They're not paid a total amount over time. So certainly I think we can redirect where that work went. There's nothing in my quick review of the contract here saying it's exclusive to them. I don't have the former RFP or RFQ that was issued to get that contract. So I think the mayor, I understand the urgency that the mayor's putting forth, and I'm not saying without arguments to be made if the commission goes another route.
Thank you so much.
Along with the mayor's route.
Thank you so much for that explanation, and I agree with some of the things that you said.
Thank you, Mayor.
Is there any further discussion? Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. That was a unanimous vote. Thank you. Item number 16, this is a discussion of communications infrastructure ordinance, and this was my item. As many of you probably heard, I was very disturbed by the poll that Verizon put up, not just because they put it in my yard a week after we had an argument, but because of the fact it was a 40-foot wooden pole that was buried only 3 feet deep in very sandy soil, and I felt like if we had another storm that it would be just another pine tree bigger to fall on someone's house. So the former city manager had negotiated with Verizon, and this could also be other carriers, but at the present time it's just Verizon, that they would try to look for a stronger, maybe a concrete pole if we were going to indeed have to have these poles in Lynn Haven without our say-so, and more aesthetically pleasing perhaps. One of the things that we did talk about in the meeting was the fact that the county has listed on the plans of the drawing at the county GPS map of where these poles are going. The last time that I reviewed those, which was in that meeting, they were wanting to put 7 of them in the country club here in Lynn Haven, which has underground utilities. And I don't think any of the residents were aware of that. And then the second question that I asked as I looked at the map, there were none scheduled to be in the Cove area of Panama City, which I found interesting since they said we needed them on all these streets. So I questioned some of that, why that was not happening. I just wanted to bring to your attention that the League of Cities has a lawsuit right now against the utilities, these public corporations being able to charge a minimal amount of money to municipalities, $150 a year, when they're making a huge amount of money. Just today in the Jacksonville area, a very well-known school, the Bowles School, had one of these poles placed on their academy without their consent, and many of the parents on the first day are withdrawing their students because of questions of the safety of the equipment. So I had asked our city attorney to look into what the other cities and municipalities were doing about the fact that our right-of-ways were being sold so cheaply, and I wanted to kind of refer and let him make a comment about what we talked about. And then I have a letter I wanted to read to you from the League of Cities.
Thank you, Mayor. The city of Lynn Haven currently has an ordinance in place. Well, it's titled Placement of Maintenance of Communication Facilities and Public Rights of Way that gives the city of Lynn Haven some authority. There's also dictating Florida statutes that would not necessarily supersede these ordinances that are in place, but may supersede other ideas we have. So what I did was look to the Florida League of Cities and to provide some ideas. But ultimately, what I would need from the mayor and the commission, if there were to be any changes, would be what is it that our current ordinance lacks or does not have sufficient detail. The other side is, I think, implementation of that ordinance, knowing that it's there and knowing that the city of Lynn Haven does have some recourse, does have some authority in where the placement of these poles go, will also aid in the issue brought up by the mayor. And then lastly, there is ongoing litigation on certain parts of the statute that the league, along with other cities, have joined in that is just now beginning. They're in the very beginning stages of that litigation.
And so just for the information, this is the letter from Florida League of Cities. The Florida League of Cities issued on May 10th a statement that the league and the cities of Fort Walton Beach, Naples, and Port Orange have filed a lawsuit challenging a 2017 state law that deprives cities of their constitutional right to manage the use of taxpayer-owned property. The lawsuit was brought in Leon County against Attorney General Ashley Moody and Secretary of State Laurel Lee in their official capacities. While cities are embracing 5G technology in their communities, they maintain the law should not include deep subsidies to multi-billion-dollar wireless companies paid for by taxpayers. Under the law, these wireless providers may have an all-access pass to public rights-of-way, including city sidewalks, city-owned utility poles, including light poles and traffic signal poles, to place wireless antennas and large equipment boxes. Cities are basically unable to say no and have limited authority to control where the wireless equipment is placed on public property. City-owned utility poles were not intended to accommodate such equipment or to provide virtually free use of such poles by private wireless providers. The lawsuit seeks to stop this action, which could disrupt every local community in Florida. It is a shocking example of corporate greed hoisted onto taxpayers. The law allows the wireless industry to pay only $150 a year, which is about 10% or less of the fair market value for the use of taxpayer-funded property. With this law, cities could lose $25 million to $50 million a year in revenues because they are not paid fairly. With promises of 5G wireless service that is still not available some 2 years after passage, industry lobbyists were successful in preempting municipal authority in violation of the Florida Constitution. Even if it is launched, the 5G will be available only in dense, profitable urban areas and will be very expensive. The wireless industry does not need taxpayer subsidies to launch this service that only a small percentage of residents will be able to use. The cities look forward to having a thorough judicial review of the law and having its unconstitutional, unlawful, and invalid provisions struck down. And so all I wanted to ask of the commission tonight is just that we as a commission adopt our ordinance and possibly consider adding to our ordinance in the future as this lawsuit moves forward to protect the taxpayers of Lynn Haven from these corporations that are infringing upon our municipal rights. So that's all I have. Just looking for a motion for our attorney to possibly add to our ordinance to protect the city if it becomes necessary based on this lawsuit, or to subtract from it, however, to protect that we protect our municipality in whichever way we need to do that by changing this ordinance as this moves along.
If I may, can I
Sure.
ask, are you asking for us to join the lawsuit or
No, I am not, because that's already underway.
Okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion.
And I'll second.
Thank you, gentlemen. And it's a very open kind of motion. There's not a lot of meat to it at this point. I just wanted the city to be aware of what is happening in the League of Cities in Florida. So is there any further discussion?
Could you repeat the motion, please?
I think, yes, well, basically, as this lawsuit goes along the way, I understand this, Mayor, and correct me if I'm wrong here. As the lawsuit moves forward, if there are additional protections that we as a city need to make, we're authorizing Adam to make sure that he's basically ahead of the curve of what's going on here to make sure that our citizens are protected and our city is protected, given any changes due to the lawsuit, the outcome of the lawsuit. Am I correct in that? Okay.
Is that short of?
Any changes to ordinance would have to be brought back to the commission. Additions, deletions, or modifications would have to be brought back. So
it's just keeping you briefed.
Would you go ahead and speak in a microphone, Commissioner Parno? Thank you.
Just, if I may, Mayor, I just want to know that the city manager will at some point advise us to join the lawsuit if other cities are jumping on there and it becomes a Morgan and Morgan kind of issue. Okay. Yeah.
So is there any further discussion? We've had a motion and a second. Is there any question from the public or discussion? Any further discussion, guys? Okay. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Anderson?
Yes, thank you. It has been a long night. Moving on to item number 17, this is discussion of section 2.04-05 of City Ordinance number 932, the distance of limitation and body altering businesses. The city attorney, do you have that ordinance, or shall I have the city manager read?
I have it, Mayor. Thank you. I'll be as brief as the commission wants me to be or allows me to be. As the commission likely knows, I submitted a handout regarding this matter via email to each one of you, which updated you on the current law in Lynn Haven as it pertains to body altering businesses, that both as well as the signage requirements for body altering businesses, and then the state of the law as it pertains to any restrictions on body altering businesses. At the last commission meeting we had, I was asked to come back with a report, but not given direction as to which direction you wanted me to go. When you want less, more, or modified restrictions. So what I would ask the commission, because this does implicate constitutional rights, is that the commission review the letter and get with me as to ideas that they have, and then let me put a report together on those specific ideas instead of just generally speaking about things or restrictions that may want that this commission may or may not want, because what can happen is one person says I want X, and then later it's reported that this is what happened, and then we have people coming to the commission meeting saying, as in the case last week, Lynn Haven doesn't allow tattoo businesses. We don't want misinformation Lynn Haven does allow tattoo businesses. There are certain requirements that must be complied with, and if this commission wants to modify those, I'm certainly open to any. I work for the pleasure of this commission, so I'm open for any comments tonight, but I'd ask that the individual could get with me so we can discuss that and discuss the current state of the case law.
Okay, and just for the sake of the public, when we talk about a body altering business, we're talking about piercings or tattoos, basically, right?
Correct. It is defined in our ordinances as body altering.
Is there a motion or any discussion? Right, wake up, gentlemen and ladies. We have work to do here.
I guess I have a question, Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
After all the discussion we had the last meeting, yeah, I'm kind of at a crossroads. I think we should allow our attorney to come up with some verbiage, but I understand what you're asking us is to contact you privately and tell you how we personally feel. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so I mean, the commission can discuss it here, but the big thing is the commission said, if the commission gives me directive, you've got to give me directive on what you want me to do. Do you want me to open the floodgate or do you want me to close the floodgate? And of course, I would have to do that in conjunction with following the federal and state laws that would apply to this type of business. But as far as what this commission would like to see, I could not tell you because that has not been discussed with me. So I would like if all five on this commission have an idea, get with me, and then with those ideas, I can vet them out as to whether or not I think they can withstand legal scrutiny if they were ever challenged, and then we can put an ordinance together with any changes. Now, the commission may come back and say, well, now that I've seen everything and understand that the misinformation that was given at the last meeting is not correct, this ordinance is perfectly fine. I don't know, and that's within this commission's purview. I would be at a loss to guess at what this commission would like to see.
And he's asking questions like the distance from church and school, the distance between the businesses, how many businesses in a particular location on a street, that kind of thing is what he's wanting to hear from each commissioner. And I think he's asking possibly for you to contact him based on what you're hearing from constituents, and then maybe bring this back. Is that kind of what you're saying?
And then I can bring it back with these are the ideas that I've heard, and these are what I think could withstand a legal challenge, and these cannot, and here's why.
Thank you. So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we get with him and he can bring it back and we can vote on it.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Any comments from the public?
Mayor, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
The motion is we're gonna get with him and he's gonna bring back something that we're gonna vote on.
Basically, the motion is that the attorney has asked that each of you contact him individually with feedback on what we already have regarding the distance from schools and churches, how many of these businesses could be operating on one street, do we want them, there's certain things we can do and can't do by statute, but he's given us that information. So he is giving you time to think about it and possibly contact people that you represent and getting their opinions, and then we come back at the next meeting and give him that feedback.
That's the way I understood the gist of it was, but Ms. Tender, or Commissioner Tender did say that to bring it back for a vote. So I just wanted to make sure that we're not setting us up that we are forced to have a vote at the next commission meeting.
Well, it's not a forced vote, but at some point we have to make a decision on it. I think she meant a vote whether it's up or down, not a forced vote. I'm not even sure what that means. So is there any further discussion?
I just simply want ideas from the commission because there's no way for me to know what you would like to see implemented without actually sitting down with me and discussing it. Last meeting it was asked that I bring it back, brought back the current state of the law. If you want modifications, I need those discussed with me so I can vet those compared to the law because it involves constitutional issues. I'm asking that you give me more time than just at a commission meeting to ask me, can you do this? There are many, this has been highly litigated over the last 15 years in multiple municipalities in the state of Florida, so we want to make sure we get it right.
Perfect. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Perna?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so, the motion has passed, thank you. Moving on to item number 18, we're getting close to the end. Discussion of the RFQ for design build of the city government buildings, parks, and sports facilities, and I believe Commissioner Russell wanted to have this discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, ma'am. It's my understanding that the commission, several meetings ago, directed the city manager to put out an RFQ for the entire build process for Lynn Haven. It has come to my attention that obviously the parks are included in that. I'm concerned about the timing with this RFQ and us being able to get sports back up and operating. I have reached out to a gentleman that raises or grows grass, and he has informed me that if we don't get grass down by the end of September, we will not be playing spring ball. So obviously I'm concerned that if we go at it as a design build, that we're not going to have King Griffin and we're not going to have the rec center back up and operating. That being said, I passed out some drawings that I asked Panhandle Engineering to give me a copy of. It's my understanding the city has already hired him, or he's already been paid to draw the preliminaries in the past. I don't know how, I just know that they were done.
That was with the previous city manager, Commissioner Russell.
Thank you, Mayor, for clarifying that for me. My suggestion is for us to do a task order for Panhandle Engineering to do the drawings on this, bring them back, and let's do a conventional bid build and get the parks back up and operating so we can play spring ball. Unless somebody can convince me otherwise, I do not think there's another option for us if we want to have spring baseball. Fall ball is out of the question. I don't think there's no way we're going to play fall ball. But to me, and I'm going to bring this to you next time about the senior center, because I think we need to pull the senior center out of the RFQ, because I don't think we are going to get that done in time for the seniors. So I'm just telling you where I'm going with this. Take care of your old people and you take care of your young people.
If I may, Commissioner Russell?
Yes, ma'am.
The statement that you made at the beginning, and if we do an RFQ for design build, but there's no way that the parks will get done, I'm not sure what you're basing that on.
Oh, I'm not saying that they won't. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay, but that was kind of what you said. And the RFQ for design build, when we voted to do that, the reason for that, it had a lot of planning behind it, that we would put out this RFQ for an engineering and construction firm to work together, that a third engineering firm that we have with the city right now, Mott, would be compiling the RFQ, and Mott would not be bidding. They were asking to perhaps be the project engineer, which would be the one who would oversee as we rebuild the city of Lynn Haven. FEMA is a very intricate process, and as we begin the rebuild, once we have put out a bid for RFQ, if that is what the commission decides to do for design build, by having one engineer, one contractor, and then another engineering firm overseeing, then as we do our public hearings and we have the public looking at what the buildings will look like, what the parks will look like, and those drawings are already out there, it is our choice of what we build first. It is what we want to do first. It doesn't matter who we hire to do it. It is a plan for the city. And FEMA is already asking us those questions. What is your priority? Do you want to see the city hall built first, or do you want to see the parks built first? Do you want the senior citizens building first? Do you want the library first? And so a design build was the consensus of this commission in order to have the brand that we've been working for. We've got our old Florida architecture of the old city hall and all the colors that we have throughout the city, to have one builder, one designer, one engineer, so that it would have a flow, that it would all match, that it would look beautiful as we rebuild it. But as far as the priority that we place on it, that is up to this commission and up to the citizens who come and talk to us. Just because you have a design build does not mean that the parks have to be last. It's the priorities of this community. So that's all I have to say.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes.
Yeah, and I have no problem with doing a design build with the idea of all the buildings, being coherent with each other. But in my opinion, you're kidding yourself if you think these parks are going to be open for spring ball if we don't get it started now. And you're not gonna do that with Mott McDonald and a design, with an RFQ. That is my personal opinion, but I'm telling you, I don't believe it'll happen. Anybody else got anything they want to?
Let me ask you, Commissioner Russell, just so I understand the mindset that we're all on here. Would you entertain, because I agree with you, I don't think it'll be done by spring either. It'd be tight, okay? Would you be, or would the commission be okay with even a Band-Aid? Can we get 2 fields going? Can we get some grass so that we do have a ball season in the spring? Would that be, or we? Again, I'm trying to pick your mindset because I can't speak to you outside the meeting.
Yes, Mayor, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
I don't know if you've been to Lynnhaven baseball,
Yes, sir.
but well, then you should be fully aware that 2 fields. You're never gonna have a season. You know, I mean, we barely have a season with the fields we have. You know, with the fields we have, we struggle with scheduling. You know, so to reduce the field down to 2, you might as well just not even do it. You know, again, that's my opinion.
And Commissioner Russell, with great respect, the parks have always been my priority as a mayor. And all I'm saying is, and Commissioner Aldridge said the same thing, if he didn't see it getting done either, the RFQ is about to be issued, which means we'll be starting work. And once we have an RFQ out, again, this commission can decide, this commission can direct whoever the contractors, whoever the engineers are, whoever the architects are. This commission has the power to say what goes first. Do we build baseball fields first, or do we build City Hall first, or do we build senior citizens? You have that power. Having an RFQ for a design build, which is what we did with our roads that was very successful, does not preclude doing parks first. It's your decision.
If I may, Mayor.
Yes.
I guess what we're saying is we're at the mercy of Mother Nature here to get these ball fields up and running. So, and we have an RFQ already, right? Is that right?
It's very close. It's almost finished with that. And that when that RFQ is finished, the commission can see it if they like. If it's something in there you don't like, you can have it changed. That is definitely, as the mayor said, it's up to this commission. We can put that RFQ out. Public Works Director and myself met with Mott Donald, and we talked about this very thing. You all will have that choice of what you want to see go first.
What Commissioner Russell, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're saying we have to get grass planted by the end of September, correct?
That is what I'm being told.
So can we agree or make the motion that the RFQ for the parks has to be in place and building by end of September, 3rd week of September?
That can be put in your RFQ, that you give deadlines of what things you want to be finished first. And then this way it also will weed out some of the people who may not be able to get some of those jobs done as well, because you're going to put some deadlines on those. So you can do that. Please go ahead.
Do we know what percentage Mott McDonald is? I mean, were you 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out on the RFQ?
2 weeks out.
About 2.5 weeks out. We just met with him last week to give him some additional information. So he should be finished this week.
So we'll have the RFQ to put out within 2 weeks.
I would think that's a little aggressive, but that could work. I could give him a call tomorrow, but I know he was very close to finishing that RFQ.
So by next meeting?
Yeah.
That we have to.
No, just keep going.
May I, Mr. Forehand, if the commission today votes to give you a task order, when can you have these plans ready to put out for a bid?
Probably end of June.
End of June? That's actually after when the RFQ is going to be back in.
Can I ask a question? All this discussion, and I know, Mr. Forehand, you get so tired of hearing me ask you this, but what would this cost the city?
I don't know.
Don't have any idea? Okay.
But keeping in mind, if I may, Commissioner Tender, as we go forward,
yes,
we have one account that's been set up and the public. Everything that we're getting to rebuild buildings from insurance is going into one account. It cannot be used for anything else. And then on top of that, we are anticipating FEMA reimbursement for damage as well. And parks is one of the categories for the 428, which we are expecting a great deal of money. I also am a baseball fan. In fact, I stood before the Triumph board very recently, and in fact stood up twice during the meeting and got called out of order and told them that Lynn Haven is a baseball city, that we need our baseball because I wanted that $15 million grant for baseball. And so I've heard that we may even be in line for some of that. So I'm a huge baseball fan. I think the kids in this city deserve it. We're known, we have the largest Dizzy Dean ball program. We deserve it. And I would certainly be on board with it. So I certainly don't want to sound like I wasn't for it, because I certainly am. Anyone else?
Mayor, obviously I don't have support on the commission for this, so I'm gonna table my decision,
I'm not sure whether you had support or not. I think we were just discussing. I mean,
but I think we're making a mistake. That's all I do.
Let me ask this, Commissioner Russell. I guess I don't understand. What's our alternative, though? I mean, what
A task order and a conventional bid bill, and I think that we could get it done faster.
but you just asked, with all due respect, you just asked the engineer when he would have drawings ready for a task order, and he said end of June, and you asked city manager about RFQ, and she said 2 weeks.
Yeah, and if she's right, and I'm gonna I say I am. I have no power on this commission other than one vote, but I will be exceptionally pissed off with Mont McDonald if it doesn't happen, because I shouldn't use that word, and I apologize now for using it.
Well, it's already out there now, but
yes,
go ahead.
Yes, ma'am, and I apologize for that, but you know how passionate I am about kids. You know, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, we're with you. I mean, we want ball fields too. I do. I want ball fields as bad as you do. I just want to make sure that we're doing it the right way. I guess I don't understand the difference in the way we're doing it, the way that you're wanting to do it. I don't see where there's a big difference there.
The timing, because with an RFQ design build, Mont McDonald puts it out, then the people come back, they design it, because the field's one already designed it. When you put it out on the RFQ design build, you're hiring an engineer and a contractor to build it, design and build it. They're gonna design 60% of it, they're gonna bring it back to us, we gotta approve that percentage, then it goes back to be redesigned again, and once we approve the final design, then it goes into construction. There's no way that's happening by
But
this.
I would say that we have drawings here.
What you're saying is the drawings, what we have is already the design, right?
Basically.
Well, these were drawings that the former city manager had done in working with Chris Forehand with Panhandle Engineering. I think they're beautiful designs. And I mean, there's really no reason why the commission couldn't suggest that these designs be incorporated into the design build if the commission wanted to go in that
So
direction.
we do that much further along.
Well, first you got work product issues because this is Panhandle's engineering work.
And if Panhandle Engineering were not to secure the bid and someone else did, it would be up to them if they maybe wanted to sell their work to the other engineering firm. I mean, there's so many different ways. I mean,
Can we dictate that as a commission, as it goes along as fast as possible?
the commission can make many many asks of the contractors, and but as far as anytime you have construction, even if we did a task order as Commissioner Russell would like to do, there's nothing saying that the entire month of September may turn into a rainstorm and the grass can't be planted anyway, or with the design build. I mean, we've seen some really incredible weather. So I'm just saying the scenario, it could go badly either way.
Sure. But you Mayor, if I may?
Sure.
You hope for the best, you plan for the best, and you work for the best. If something bad happens, it happens. But if you plan for the worst, you're gonna get the worst.
And if you feel passionately about going in that direction, I would make the motion and see if you get the support. That's what I would do.
We've got plans in our hand, right?
Okay. Well, I'll make them, Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
I'll make a motion that the commission send a task order to Panhandle Engineering to do the drawings, to come back to do a conventional bid build on King Griffin and the rec center, so that we can get it open and operating in time for spring baseball. And with the caveat that the contract have liquidated damages in it if it's not done in time?
May I ask a question? Well, we've got a motion on the floor.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Tender, now the question.
Are the plans that you brought to us tonight, are these the plans though? Do they have to be redone for some reason?
Mr. Foran, would you please come up and explain what you need to do?
Okay, I think what you have before you are two different sets of plans. One is a double A field that we designed for Lynn Haven last year. You had it in your budget. We finished it somewhere in probably February, March timeframe. The previous city manager decided not to build that field. It was at the sports park, okay? But that design included lights, it included a dugout, included all the basics of a double A field, which is coach pitch, and also softball. So we never built that. And then when we had the storm come along, previous city manager sat down with us and Mr. Horton and came up with some ideas about what the needs are of all the fields. And so we prepared all these preliminary plans, and we didn't charge for those. So those are just things we did because we wanted to see the sports fields come back. So that's what we've done in terms of design.
Mr. Forehand, these plans, everything we have right before us and the motion we have, can we get the grass planted and then in time? If you go out in June, like you say, can we get this? Okay.
And which one of these do you recommend? Which one of the plans do you recommend?
Well, each one, you have a preliminary
one's
plan.
King Griffin,
One's
and
King
one's-
Griffin, and
Oh,
one's
different
Sports Park. And if you look at the concepts, the concept there is for the sports park to be all kid pitch and above. So it'd be kid pitch up to high school level baseball. And then King Griffin would be converted to 4 fields, 1 T-ball and 3 double A fields. Excuse me. And so all of the coach pitch and below and the softball, T-ball, would take place at King Griffin. So that was the original plan. And that basically utilizes all the space that you currently have.
That's a lot of people over at King Griffin. That's good.
Are there other questions or comments?
How big is this skate park?
It's just a place.
Just a place.
Yeah,
Okay.
just some ideas.
I like skate parks. I like big skate parks. Let's get the ball.
Okay, the commissioners cannot talk to each other on this. Thank you.
And obviously, we wouldn't be doing any buildings. It would
Yeah,
just be
separate.
the fields, just the dugouts, the non-habitable type structures. So.
Is there any other question from the board?
Yes, just one more. This would all be paid for by FEMA, correct?
Well, we
Because it's
don't know that yet.
Oh,
We know we will get some money from FEMA, some money from insurance.
thank you.
And Mayor, may I?
Please go ahead.
Yes. One of the things we will have to do, because we have put a design bill in place and FEMA has already given the first blessing of that, and we're waiting to hear back from them on the CM part of it. If we do this, then we're gonna have to resubmit that to FEMA as well for them to approve this. And so, just so you know, that may take some time as well.
What was the dollar amount on that submittal, Ricky? Do you know? What was the dollar amount on that?
The submittal
The
to FEMA.
submittal for that, do you know?
I
know.
Yeah, we don't submit, we just do it by the detail,
By the detailed report, we don't send in a damage, a detailed number. They just look at the damage detail report of that.
Mayor, if I may, is Miss Vicky, are you saying that even if we vote on this and pass it, it may still be held up because you have to go back to FEMA?
That's what she's saying.
That's correct. Because we have to get reimbursed on this.
But let me ask this. If we go ahead and vote to do this, it's not gonna hurt anything, right? I mean,
Well, you're
what's it gonna hurt?
changing what we've already approved and that FEMA has already started the process on, and we're going to a different process.
Okay.
When ultimately, with what we already have in place, this plan could be used And it could be the first thing we do once it's in place. That's all I'm saying. I don't know how to explain that any better.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we're all on the same page. We're all in the ballpark. So it's just getting to the.
So we've had a motion on the floor and we've had a second. Is there any further discussion or questions? And then we'll call for a vote. Okay, come on up. No, I mean, we've been here this long. Everybody has a right to speak. Please go ahead.
It's just listening about the softball complexes and stuff like that. You're saying putting the softball at Kane Griffith and just baseball at the sports complex. Just being a coach of softball and volleyball and stuff like that. I know that there are out of state or out of county teams that come and play tournaments, and they use the beach, and they've used the this is for softball now. They've used the sports complex. I'm just concerned about the space at King Griffith if it's just for softball and nothing at the sports complex for softball. So just think of that you've got big tournaments that come into town, and they are at the beach and they overflow into Lynn Haven, because I've had granddaughters on that or nieces on that too, that they come in, and I just looking at parking and all of that and possibly hitting houses or whatever, just want you to keep that in mind as far as these plans, because that's what I heard, that just softball was at King Griffith.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Isn't there softball at the sports place? You could do them in both. Yeah. Yeah.
Those plans didn't show that.
Any other comments?
Mayor, just one more, please.
Okay, please go ahead.
I want to make sure that I understand. If we vote this through, are we changing the order of what we're going to rebuild first? For example, are we going to put our city hall down the road to put the baseball fields in first?
And that's what I was trying to point out, Commissioner Tender, is that with the RFQ that we've already voted on, that's already in the process of being compiled, that one of the things we said is that as we move along, it will be up to this commission what goes first. If we decide to go baseball, city hall, senior citizen center, and we'll have the public here to give their input as well, just as we just heard from someone what she thought. It's very important that the public have an input in the rebuilding of Lynn Haven so that it reflects everyone's voice, in my opinion. Thank you. Is there any other discussion? So, Commissioner Russell did make a motion in favor of pulling out the baseball fields as a separate task order, and you were using these plans and Chris Forehand and Panhandle Engineering as the design, and that was seconded. And Ms. Gaynor, would you please go for a roll call?
Commissioner Russell.
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Perno.
Yes.
Commissioner Tender.
No.
Mayor Anderson.
No. And it did pass, so that's what they'll be doing is issuing a task order for these ballparks, but please keep in mind it will take FEMA approval before that moves forward. Okay, I lost my agenda. Thank you very much. We are finally to item number 19, which is a discussion to approve the task order 0119 for the City of Lynn Haven, FDOT beautification of the right-of-way and State Road 77 for engineering services and design by Panhandle Engineering. Ms. Gaynor, do you have a report?
Yes. Mayor, at the last meeting, we did approve to go on and do the beautification for Highway 77. And with that, again, I did state that there would be some design, engineering design in that. And so in order for that to happen, our city engineer actually was one of the ones that got this JPA for us. And we are requesting that our city engineer, Panhandle Engineering, do the engineering for this project.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve this task order with Panhandle Engineering. Is there any questions or discussion from the board? Any from the public? There appears to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell.
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Perno.
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so it stands approved. And item number 20 is adjournment of the meeting. Thank you all for participating tonight. The meeting is adjourned.